Uh, gotcha. Don't be alarmed. That was just a little cold open for me. That wasn't actually me being shot by the arrow. Hate to be that guy. That totally sucks, but I am 100% a-okay. Have not been shot by an arrow. Uh, ooh, I've had this sort of mindset when I DM my D&D games where a challenge is simply more fun. Harder fights, more dangerous situations, higher DCs in certain checks, and of course, bigger rewards come with that. Not to keep the party perfectly balanced with the world, because that's more like a video game perspective, which is still totally fine for D&D. The CR scales exist for a reason after all. But what if we took this game of magic, undead, giant slime cubes, and talking dragons and made it just a little bit more realistic? But before we get into that, ahoy! I'm the D&D Hunter, a regular human man who is absolutely not a mind flayer in disguise. I will assure you this mustache is very much real. I make D&D videos every single week on tips, tricks, and ideas. This week's video, we're talking about how you shouldn't be balancing your world on this episode of World Building with a Human Man, a little series where I talk about world building your worlds. In this case, we are doing the opposite of what the books tell you to. CR, let's throw that out the window for a second here. Hear me out, guys. Have you ever had a character die in D&D? Or as a dungeon master, have you ever killed a player's character? It can be overwhelming, it can be sad, and you can have a weird sort of combination of excitement and guilt and worry and fear that your players may absolutely hate you for this. But honestly, character death is a part of this game. But some campaigns go years and years and years, or even a full, like 5-year long campaign without losing anybody. And that's honestly an accomplishment. If that's happened to you, congratulations. That's awesome. However, sometimes maybe that makes the game feel a little bit too easy. So I tried changing that. I raised the CR in my battles, and suddenly combat became a lot more intense. Players actually saved their gold for potions of healing when they went into towns, and they stayed together instead of splitting the party up during combat. They would look at an encounter before it happens and hesitate a little bit, wondering if they can even take on this beast that they're about to fight. It made the game a lot more exciting. Strategy suddenly existed a lot more in D&D. It showed that death can happen at any moment and that danger is real. That being said, this does not mean I'm getting rid of like the goblin fights at level 1. There's always room for smaller scale encounters, especially when you're very low level, but I want this world to feel a little bit more unbalanced. Brendan Lee Mulligan actually emphasized what I'm talking about in Critical Role's current campaign. In episode 4, when the party was in a very bad situation, he explained this method pretty perfectly.
The world of Ahriman has many walks within it and many different opponents. And I will remind you as your friend, because we are playing a game together above the table, this world is not necessarily balanced in each and every instance. It contains a verisimilitude, and I wish for you to walk in the light of that truth.
The world isn't balanced, so your world design shouldn't be either. D&D fights often scale to the party's level like a video game, but does that mean that the bigger monsters are just kind of like waiting in the back politely? Are they just like spy on the party from a distance, being like, all right, when it hits level 12, then we can go attack them? I mean, like, what's stopping that ancient blue dragon from attacking the region? What's stopping the vampire lord from beginning her evil plan? A level 3 party can absolutely walk into these threats. These threats exist whether your party is ready for them or not. A storm giant is not going to check your character sheet before stepping on you, and that's okay. Now I want to emphasize that Dungeons & Dragons is not a game of dungeon master versus player. A DM shouldn't be trying to kill the characters. They're trying to just teach them the ecosystem of your world. A goal can be survive the fight, sure, but players should also learn to recognize when a fight can't be won. Then it becomes more of a role-playing choice than just roll initiative. Do we push on them anyways? Do we run? Do we talk? What do we do here? Have your players roleplay and strategize together of what the plan is when the fight's about to begin. One of the best ways to teach this to your players is by letting them see the dangers long before they're in danger. Maybe they hear a roar that shakes the trees, or a farmer tells them about a blue devil flying overhead last night. Maybe they find a burned skeleton or a giant boar struck by lightning so hard it carved a crater. Give them signs, give them footprints, have them roll those investigation checks or those nature checks through the woods. Warnings. Let them feel the presence of something that's too big for them. And let them decide maybe they're not ready for this yet. Instead of blocking players in an invisible video game like wall, let them walk towards the dragon's lair with a full understanding that it could be a very terrible idea. But hey, maybe the loot there is absolutely insane for their level, right? And if they do end up getting there and some good stealth checks or persuasion checks are made, I would reward them. But if the stealth checks are bad and the persuasion checks are bad, TPK is possible in this situation, or at least a character death, like 1, maybe 2, maybe 3. Maybe even 4. Okay. If they do turn back on their own, realizing that they're not cut out for this just yet, then that's player agency and that's world building for them. It builds their own characters within your world. So next you want to create encounters that teach the party that it's okay to run. Most players treat retreat like a failure. Treat retreat. Treat retreat. That's so funny. I wrote that. I'm very proud of that. I didn't even realize when I... They treat it like failure. But in a dangerous world, retreat is a mechanic. So create monsters where something is obviously too strong. Not instant death strong, just maybe like lasting a round or two strong. Or maybe, hey, instant death strong is still powerful too, just be ready for your players to be annoyed at you for that. Have the monster toy with them, like a giant swings a tree and sends someone flying 40 feet high before catching him right before he hits the ground and grinning. Let the Vampire Lord drain someone for half their max HP, then laugh as they leave. These encounters scare the players in a good way. Trust me, they will be locked in if they encounter a Vampire Lord at level 3 instead of a pack of wolves. When your players do run, reward that. Maybe avoiding the fight lets them find a secret path, or maybe they are able to warn a nearby town just in time to clear it before that creature arrives there. Therefore, saving a town, giving them more rewards, more items, more information about this creature that was there to attack the town before the warning came. Show that intelligence and cautions are just as heroic as sword swinging. Another tool to make combat feel a bit costly is potions matter. Short rests matter. That one spell slot that burned earlier, that suddenly matters. An unbalanced world still allows victory, but every victory leaves a scar, and every close call leaves a lesson. Tie this into your world design. When the world becomes more alive, then threats exist independently from the party. A fire giant doesn't scale to match the heroes. He's out there living his life, waging wars, forging armies, and doing fire giant things. The party might meet him too early, or much later when they're actually ready for this. That anticipation builds a real story tension of this guy, we can't face him now, but maybe 15 sessions from now they encounter him again, ready this time. This also makes things a bit more rewarding, like a warm tavern after a brutal escape can hit a lot more harder in the finally sort of relaxation kind of scale, or a short rest in a cave from a storm becomes a moment of relief instead of just, all right guys, let's take a short rest. It also pushes the players to be a bit more creative. When they know anything that they might meet might kill them, suddenly they're not just rolling initiative when charging in. Because now your players aren't just adventurers, they're schemers, they're seekers, they're soldiers. An unbalanced world encourages solutions that aren't just violence, of course, because this can tie into something that I firmly believe should always be true in Dungeons & Dragons. Combat should feel difficult. It should feel challenging, enough to get your players to strategize instead of just autopiloting and doing the same spells that they usually do. When the world isn't tailored to them, even a quote-unquote balanced encounter can feel dangerous because safety is never guaranteed.
The Demogorgon! We're deep. Will, your action! I don't know.
For example, your level 5 party is wandering through a forest. You don't need a CR20 monster to make it feel intense though. Just show that monster's giant footprint, a clawed up wagon. Villagers have gone missing. That can create instant tension. And because your hard encounters are truly difficult, your easy encounters become a bit more like fun breaks instead of boring filler. Even those simple fights can escalate. A goblin can ambush your party, which might wake up a sleeping worm buried underneath the battlefield. Now you and the goblins are fleeing together, but this can maybe lead into a temporary goblin and party alliance. That can be memorable as you team up with these goblins to find a way to get rid of this purple worm. This can also massively elevate your villains, like your main villains. I'll be making a video later soon, kind of going over the actual main villain topic about this eventually here. So I guess like subscribe and ring that bell and all that stuff, you know? But to put it blunt here, a villain should be felt long before fought. A silhouette in burning smoke, a name whispered by terrified NPCs, a figure watching from a cliff during a fight that the party barely survived. You gotta foreshadow this villain, which can build this villain up a lot more, and the world that surrounds this villain. And when your players finally face that villain after years of build-up, the payoff is enormous. Maybe not years of build-off, maybe like months. Let's say sessions of build-up. But when your world's unbalanced like this, how do you prevent accidental TPKs? Well, communication, subtle narrative communication. Creatures start to act a bit more realistically, like a predator can size them up first, or a vampire, like I mentioned before, can taunt you before killing you immediately. Dragons fly from above, and big dragons, not wormlings, like adult and potentially ancient dragons, just fly above them, showing that they exist in this world. Not every encounter has to be fought to the death. You gotta give those warnings, you gotta give those escape routes, and you gotta give them a chance to surrender. Or have that lich give a warning attack that knocks the player unconscious, the one that was maybe the funnier player. And right when that happens, that lich looks at the rest of the party in shock and whispers, "Run." Keep in mind, a deadly world doesn't mean that the whole campaign is just constantly deadly. It should just mean that it's more of a believable setting. Why are these big monsters around? Because why would they be hiding? This might all sound a little scary, right? But trust me, your players will love this, even the frustrating moments before it becomes more legendary. You know those stories you tell, like around dinner time or when you're not playing D&D, about moments that happen in your D&D campaign? Oh, remember when I got this nat 20 versus this dragon, or remember when I escaped this gelatinous cube when I was inside of it during this time? Those moments, they're kind of like legends, like you're telling legends around a table here. Deadly campaigns make your legends happen way more often. You'll never believe how often your players will talk about how when they were level 3 they accidentally walked into a frost giant camp ready for the kill and they had to run from it. Or when they're level 1 and they rolled a natural 19 to hit a monster, but the AC was actually above 19, so they missed in the end. That's insane for that level. These are the types of legends that your players will be telling for years. Running an unbalanced world makes your players feel small at first, but that's precisely what makes them feel a lot more powerful later. Make their victories feel earned.
We won. All right, hey.
Dungeons & Dragons is a world of living myths, ancient monsters, political titans, ruined civilizations, oceans full of leviathans, and gods who sometimes walk the earth. Your players aren't the protagonists of this universe, but they can become the protagonists. Challenge your players. Let danger exist. Let them run. Let them survive. And then let them come back even stronger. Because when they finally face that monster that they once fled, that is peak storytelling in Dungeons & Dragons. Thank you guys for watching this little video here. This was kind of like a weird topic, but it's something that I've been wanting to make a video on since I started this channel here. Hard combat works. Killing your players works. I mean, you shouldn't try to do that, but if it happens, that just adds to the story, you know? If a fight is too easy for the players more than multiple times, it becomes a little bit of a drag. So making the world a bit more scary is a way to prevent that. And keep in mind, don't try to kill your players unless they're provoking it. You know the whole poke the bear metaphor? If they're literally poking a bear in this case, we'll say the bear is an ancient red dragon, then yeah, there's a chance that, well, there's a huge chance that they're just gonna burn to death. But eventually they'll learn to play this safe, and it can add so much to your world. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye!